Welcome back to the TechEd Clubhouse podcast. Today I'm joined by Bobby Miller, who's better known online, and I met through LinkedIn as Mr. Miller's Woodshop. Bobby's a CTE and skilled trades instructor, doing far more than teaching students how to build with wood. His classroom is built around real decisions, real materials, real standards, and work that has to function when it's finished. And that matters now because schools are going to be spending a lot of time talking about creativity and problem solving and communication and career readiness. Meanwhile, us shop teachers, yes, shop teachers have been building these things for decades. So today we're not going to just talk about woodshop. We might get into some of that stuff, but we're going to talk about what hands-on learning gets right and what the rest of education can learn from us CTE teachers and shop teachers. And students need more opportunities that are real. So welcome to the clubhouse, Bobby. Tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Thanks for having me, Dan. This is very exciting for me, and I'm glad to see more people in this space. And so just props to you and what you do on here. I teach woodshop primarily. I'm a tech ed teacher, CTE licensed in 3 areas here in Minnesota, construction, manufacturing, and communications. And so I try to tie all that together in my classrooms and just build a career-ready student. My biggest accomplishments are the relationships that I have with my students and continuing them after they graduate. And so I've got several students that are starting their careers or continuing their careers that have stayed in contact with me and tell exactly like what they're doing or what their next career moves are. And so that is the goal. When I take them in as freshmen and teach them how to use the table saw and relieve that fear and ignite that excitement for working with their hands, that's all well and good. And I'm going to keep doing that. That's the bread and butter. That is the layup shot that we've got here as shop teachers, because it's a marketable skill. I'm shop teacher, but personally, I'm married. I've got 4 kids. My oldest is 5, so I'm a very busy guy.
Wow.
We were just talking here. I'm in a client's house right now doing this podcast. It's June 22nd, 2026, and so I'm off on summer break, which means that I am using that marketable skill that I have to provide for my family. And so that's what I just try to pass down to that next generation coming up.
Yeah, it's weird, and we kind of commented before we hit record that us shop teachers seem to be the remodel guys as I'm working on my project here in my house. And like me, I'm sure you grew up doing this stuff too, didn't you?
Yeah.
So you had a natural inclination to say, yeah, I want to be in the shop. That's where I love it. That's where I live. What was for you going to school? Because you would have been one of my students going back, because I started teaching in '93. And what was high school like for you? And did you know what you were going to do?
Sure. Well, I graduated in 2010, and
Ouch.
I had
Ouch.
a phenomenal shop teacher experience in Woods and Ottles. And so those 2 areas, my school thrives. Springlake Park High School back then really valued the trades, the skilled work that people can do. But back in those days, you were looking as if high school failed you if you were not going to 4-year degree or some sort of next sort of education where it is only computers and brain power and nothing with your hands. And so I got accepted to a local community college. I liked history. I had a good history teacher, and so I had always had the inclination to become a teacher. My dad built the cabinets in my house growing up. He is an avid woodworker. He builds gifts for my kids for every birthday and holiday that we have, and so it's I've been around it my whole life. Like you hit the nail on the head right there, where it's something that's in my bones. I enjoy it. To provide for myself going through college, I worked all of these summer jobs in painting, in roofing, in construction. Missing a million of them, but I had my
Yeah.
own business here for 3 years too. It's called 3M, if you ever heard of it. Miller Maintenance and Mowing. That's a
Gotta do it
joke
all.
that yeah. So it's a joke that I tell to students on my first day when I meet them, and it's just blank stares. Just, dude, you're not funny. But people
Yeah.
like that's a a decent joke, but whatever. I'm a dad now, so that's a dad joke, I guess, apparently. So,
Absolutely.
um, yeah, I really enjoy what I do. I also encourage my students to become shop teachers because I think I have the best job on earth. And, summers I gotta make hay, but otherwise during the school year, it turns out to be a pretty good gig. I'm 11 years in now to teaching. I had 8 years in industry before and during that. But it's a good calling and a good career in my opinion.
Absolutely. It's something different every day, right? And what are some of the things you get to see in the shop that maybe a classroom teacher, what happens in the shop environment that doesn't necessarily happen in a typical classroom?
I'm inclined to say learning, but I should not say that because learning happens, and I'm friends with so many great teachers in the four core subjects that you were talking about: science, math, social studies, and
Yep.
English. Is that the
ELA,
fourth
yep.
one? So I'm just teasing there, but it's all hands on. We go to all these professional development workshops and conferences, and how do we get students working with their hands? How do we get them hands on? Which is encouraging to hear because, like what you were asking with the last question, when I was their age, 18 years old, it was not a cool thing to go out and go right into the workforce, and the counselors looked down upon that. And we mentioned earlier, I was born in '92 and the class of 2010, 92% of us were going off to higher education after high school. And that was a big win. And the counselors touted that. And it was great, right? They were using the data that they knew at the time. So I don't really blame them all that much. But now we're faced with the skilled trades gap, which highlights the need for programs like ours. Because, truth be told, after I graduated, my little brother took the shop classes that I took, thrived in them, built better stuff than I did.
Right.
And then the year after that, they cut all the program, canned the teachers, and nope, the future is communication and computers, and we're not going to be doing that working with your hands stuff. And so tragic because we had a thriving construction trades program where our high school actually built a house like you see a lot of other thriving areas doing now, but they got rid of that whole program. And thankfully my high school has since brought at least a part of that back. It's very hard to find guys like you and I that are willing to do this, but what you see in our classrooms is fun. I mean, I can take some of the some of the most challenging students
There you go.
where they have behavioral issues, they don't like school, they don't care about grades, they mouth off. I take all those students and I'm darn near close to 100% in turning them around within 2 weeks, where they're into this, they dig this, and they want to do more. There might be some initial fear going through some machines, but as soon as that is quelched, like we are off and running. I had a student that I got to know a couple of years prior to him taking my class, just because he'd be walking the hallways, he'd be, you know, mouthing off to other teachers, and you get a rumor, right? You get a reputation. And so this student takes my class. He does not want to do the safety unit. Okay, I get him through that. A lot of tips and tricks and strategies for that too. I mean, when he was still parked in front of his safety unit and the rest of the class is using the tools that he wants to use, that lit the fire underneath him. And so he proved that he's got it up here. He's got the brain power to pass the test and to absorb the information, or at least cheat well enough to where I didn't catch him. And he gets out to the shop and he gets that fear quelched because he was scared of the table saw. And I walk every student through the table saw hand over hand, and we do it safely. And I've yet to have an initial first time on the table saw have an issue with me standing right there. So that's really good. And so we got that, and we get off and running on our projects, and he's doing everything and following directions, and he even started coming to class on time. And administrators get note of that, and they're coming in, which kind of threw him off because he has, you can imagine, an adverse relationship
Hmm.
with all them. And so I'm always an open door, and I said, like, you can keep coming in, but every time you come in, he stops doing what he's supposed to be doing because he's got that reputation. I ain't doing this. School ain't for me, kind of thing. And
Hmm.
I live in the community I teach in, so I run into him at the grocery store, and he's like, "Yo, Miller, man, like let's go to the wood shop. Let's go cut some wood. Let's go make something." I'm like, man, I'm just here shopping with my family. Can't wait to
Right.
see you tomorrow, but please leave me alone. And my
Right.
wife was like, "Oh my God, who is that?" Because he's like big, burly, like scary looking dude, and he was like real excited to see me, and just
Yeah.
some social like learning yet to do too. And so like he came on real strong, like he was in the classroom, and it's like, we can't do this here at Target, man.
Right. You know,
But all those opportunities, I'm fortunate because if I was trying to teach him history, and dates and figures and facts and stuff like that, I wouldn't have that tool. And I applaud those teachers that do have that tool to get those students, because it is so much easier to, give them that carrot of like, you want to use a miter saw? That's fine. You have to pass the test first.
right. Oh my God. That's, I'm just, as you're talking about that, Bobby, I'm just thinking back to my 30 years. I started in a metal shop, went to a wood shop, did everything in my department, right? As you probably do too. You're jack of all trades, master of none type of thing. Um, but good at it, right? Because you figure some things out. But those kids, right, like that would struggle in a history class because maybe they're frustrated, right? I think I've grown to feel that that kid might be frustrated in math class because he or she might be a little bit behind. But
Yeah,
in our classes, in the STEM and the CTE areas, they're using it, right?
yeah,
There's a purpose to learning fractions, right? I
yeah,
always found fractions like math teachers, fractions are hard to teach. No, they're not,
yeah.
right? We teach them all day long,
Yeah, reduce the fraction. Yeah,
right?
eight sixteenths. Nah, that's
No,
one half.
no.
Yeah, you bring up a good point, because I see that a lot too, where I've taught in rural and suburban districts, and so the rural is a little bit different, where students have done this before, they've ran a drill before, they know how to
Mm-hmm.
change the bit outs, they've used a miter saw, they've worked on the farm with dad. But I'm in a suburb situation now, and it's brand new to kids,
Yes.
and that's cool. The part of the challenge too with math or history is like they've done this before. They know they don't like it. They know it. They had that interaction last year with the teacher that got him in trouble and suspended and whatever. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
brand new. This is okay. Safety unit check. All right, now I get to build this piece of furniture, build these cabinets, build whatever it is. That is exciting to a kid. So that's what we capitalize on, right?
Right. And my wife I'm 56 years old and I have some of the woodworking project. Now, I didn't take shop in school, right? I didn't set one foot in the shop room at school because that's again, like you, that's what I did at home. I didn't have to, right? I mean, we
Cool.
literally built cabinets just like your dad said, but my wife took shop when she was in school and we still got one of her tables there.
Yeah.
And, she's a couple years old. I'm not going to tell how old she is. She's a few years older than I am. Graduated in the late 1900s like me. And, right. So and these kids still have these pieces with them and they're
Oh yeah.
proud of them. The kid that might not be proud of that essay comes in and has a shelf or a table or a chair. I've seen some of your projects and they're pretty amazing, right? And you see pride.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The make and take model is the way to go. Um, I applaud the other shop teachers that do it different ways, but if they're making something that's going in their house, it means a lot more to them. They'll ask me a question like, "Oh, how should I do this panel right here? How should I make this door look?" And I'm like, "I don't know, man. It's going to your house, not mine." And I'm like, "What do you think is going to look cool? What do you want to look at the next 30 years?" And they laugh like, "Oh, 30." It's like, well, I built an end table about 20 years ago, my freshman year of high school. It's still in my dad's living room. Okay, I like the Roman OG corners that I put on it. The
Mm-hmm.
profiles on there look cool. The gaps and the imperfections, I see every time I go over there for Easter and
Absolutely.
Christmas, and laugh at them now. But like those learning opportunities are things they get to pass forward now, and they see that ownership, and that's something that, yeah, it doesn't hold the same weight as a research essay, which again, applauding those teachers there.
Exactly. Time and a place for everything, right?
Yeah.
Couple questions kind of going back when you talked about your table saw. I always found that the bandsaw was the worst tool for injuries.
Yeah, I agree.
Lots of thumbs.
Yep. Yeah,
Um,
I kind of avoid those big time bandsaw projects on purpose like that. And we're pretty heavy on the bandsaw in our middle school curriculum.
mhm,
And so I kind of feel like let's get to some actual production machinery because I've worked in a few cabinet shops and
mhm.
they're not using the bandsaw. They got a CNC to make those profiles. So I kind of justify it that way. Some students will want to make some like decorative boxes or a little decorative little drawers for jewelry or whatever. And it's like, okay, let's do a bandsaw box, but we're gonna work a little bit closer. And they do a safety unit,
Sure.
safety day and test on the bandsaw, and I'm big on that. Like, I got 10 fingers, count them. And I tell them it's the 10 finger club. I'm a life member, and I want you a member too. That's why you pass these tests. So
Oh,
I'm big on safety. As soon as they are done with the safety stuff, that doesn't stop. We continue to review and go back, and as we're building. But it is a case where once you know how to use this machine, let's learn how to use it well now. So that's where we're kind of focusing on the miter saw, table saw, jointer, CNC machines, sanders, all those sorts of ones.
so that's awesome. That's awesome. I'm also a member of the 10 Finger Club, but a couple of mine had to be kind of put back on. Um,
Yeah.
Freak college accident on a table saw that was built in the 1950s. And
Wow.
again, I grew up using them. I grew up with that one that you probably shouldn't be. When I walked into my shop, there was a table saw in there that you probably shouldn't be using.
Yeah, the unisaw.
Oh, it was the old Unisaw. Yeah, I bought it. I bought the saw stop. That was the
Yep.
first thing that we put in there, and never. It's a great saw too. And on top of that, it's a really good saw.
Yep.
But
Good
the
saw, good
technology is
story, good
amazing.
everything.
And knock on wood, we've had a couple. We had it triggered a couple times,
Oh yeah.
so it saved a lot. Because they're kids.
Yep.
Um, do you find, we talked about that struggling kid that comes into our class, the academically struggling kid, and then they flourish and they're a great kid. They're not a behavior problem. They show up, right? You can joke with them. You create this relationship. But do you see the flip side of that where maybe that academically strong kid comes in and struggles?
Oh yeah. The we did this really good research among the entire staff at Cambridge High School when I was teaching up there just before COVID. We had every student's name on these just gigantic posters, and we went around during a PD day, and we had to put a star on it if we had a positive relationship, a sad face for a negative relationship, and there were a couple other indications, but we found that there's like 80% of the student body there isn't that like direct positive or negative communication or just relationship between the kids. And so that huge block in the middle informed a lot of the way that I structure my classroom. If you've done any research on me, I don't do demonstrations anymore live, other than safety ones. The safety ones are live. Everyone after that is video element. They scan their they'll have project plans printed out individual to them for what they're making. And step by step, it's got a picture, it's got some words explaining, but the crowning achievement of overcoming that 80% gap is this QR code that has a 2 to 5 minute video of me doing the exact step that they are being asked to do. And it's got all the detail in there. Zoomed in shot, they're edited now. There's words on the bottom. It's way more efficient than watching me put in these 6 screws live because maybe you don't have a good seat, maybe the person next to you is talking, maybe something comes up where I have to address it, or just it takes a long time for you to watch me put in these 6 screws. If I can fast forward that and it's just zip 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 zip, and we've
Right.
overcome that, and so that's why we're able to do rocking chairs and 3 level jewelry boxes within one trimester, 1/3 of the school year.
Wow.
Um, it's controversial because it's using cell phones in school, and so for the last year and a half, really, I haven't been able to do that in my building, which it's hurt. It honestly hurts us. It's like going back and teaching in 2006. That's exactly what one of the leaders in our school said. Is that that's the intention of this new policy, and it stinks. It really stinks because it did take us back into where it used to take us one trimester to do a rocking chair. Now it takes two, because they're like, well, every student is 1-to-1. They've all got a Chromebook. Like, yes, but I've structured it a little bit more efficient, and not a lot of them are willing to come in and see it. They just hear from kids, oh, Miller lets us use phones in his class. Like,
Right.
yes, as a tool. And if you are not using that correctly, I pin you to the wall. Like, you're wasting your time. I'm upset because you're wasting your own time, and that is a big flaw personally that you're gonna have to deal with throughout your life. Like, I only got you for 12 weeks. Like, let's get this done. Like, it's not going to be a case like some classes where you can take the last 2 weeks and just pedal to the metal and get it through. Like, it's going to be the case where, man, you didn't finish. I'm sorry. And that's tied to the grade too. If you don't finish your projects in my class, you fail, because that's the job, right?
Yeah.
If I don't get this remodel done, I ain't getting paid. Okay, my family doesn't eat. My mortgage doesn't get paid.
Right.
So I've got good administrator support on the grading side anyway. There's just, a mindset shift that needs to take place, or some other solution that needs to come forth to where a teacher can have autonomy in their room, and the other teachers down the hall don't complain. It's like, well, I don't have good classroom management because this other teacher is doing something more innovative. And that's the frustrating point that I'm just personally, professionally, that's where I'm at, because I did this quietly for almost 10 years and it took off.
Mm-hmm.
And you like anything, you get some success and you get some people that
Jealousy.
are not happy with it, and if they're in leadership positions, they try to just extinguish you. And it's a sad part of any industry, but it's especially sad when it's a teaching industry that directly involves kids. Like, if I'm doing this and I'm making extra hundreds of thousands of dollars for myself, I can understand why the haters would come at me, but it's not the case. Like, I could go back and teach in 2006 model, and I take home the same paycheck, but there's not that value, and I'm not able to get those kids. In fact, the students that are in my advanced classes have, like, tried to secretly access with their phones the QR codes that I have posted around the room, and so I actually had to take off a lot of the.
Mm.
I had to, like, pause the viewing availability in YouTube so that they weren't able to. They're trying desperately to
Yes.
get to this information, and we're telling them no. Like, come on,
Right.
this they're not able to go grab their Chromebook, walk it over, and QR code it, because a lot of these, doing it this way too is challenging, because a lot of times I just record these. I said, give my phone to a kid and I say, hey, take a video of me doing this. This is how we store our stuff in the cages. Okay. 30-second
Right.
video. Okay, but a kid walked behind me during that, and he's a photo restriction. He's got some safety concerns at home. So I privatized the video. You can't see that video unless you've got that QR code. It protects the kid, it protects the school, it protects me, it protects everyone. Okay. I just can't post that link because other students would be able to share that. And so that's where it is really a
Mm-hmm.
frustrating thing, that just those that have been in administration or leaders and have had their stuff set since 2006 and haven't changed anything,
Yeah.
that's where their blind spots are, and it's hopefully going to change. I'm in leadership roles now too, and so I'm pushing that as effectively as I can. And I'm not trying to get myself fired or to make trouble or to hurt other teachers. So when they said that's the policy, a bunch of my students said, "Are you going to follow that?" Because we've heard some other teachers are not doing that, and I've noticed some of them that were carrying the ball on it. Oh, well, we've only got 10 minutes left in class. You guys just have some free time. Every single student is right here. That's what we're trying to avoid, and that's the
Yes.
frustrating point, because my students aren't doing that. When there's 10 minutes left in the hour, every minute of that is devoted to cleanup. Okay, there's not an
Mm-hmm.
opportunity for a student to have that. And that's just another part of the piece of what you don't see in other classes that you see in ours is downtime. Or I misworded that, but you don't see downtime in a shop class. Okay,
Yes.
and that's by the student's choice. A lot of times
Absolutely.
I'll call for cleanup time, and I get a bunch of eye rolls and a bunch of mean looks like, I just marked this. I just want to go cut it. Can I go cut, just make this one cut? And
Uh-huh.
I just smile. I just, nope, cleanup time. Same for everybody. If there's a crisis, where a student has
Yeah.
got this very complicated glue up and Miller, I just need a couple minutes. And in that instance too, I've got an ace in the hole. And I encourage every other shop teacher that's listening to this, accept a classroom volunteer. I've got a volunteer that I'm going to talk about in my own podcast for America's Birthday, volunteerism in America, because these volunteers used to be in almost every shop class. And everyone who's taken a shop class pre-2000 remembers them. They remembers the maintenance men and women
Mm-hmm.
that took care of the shop. It wasn't all on us. I mean, that's where it's like I used to pull my hair out. Like I got to be at this PD after school, but I've got a
Mm-hmm.
bandsaw broken.
Right.
So, Mr. Miller, what would really help you in your classroom, in your teaching, in your profession? Like, time to go fix the shop. Okay, I got an air leak and
Absolutely.
a time saver. Okay, I've got dull blades on the table saws. Like, time
Yep.
to prep would be kind of nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, we got a
Absolutely.
prep hour. You got a prep hour. Like, that's for grading
Yeah.
and making copies. The stuff the other teachers are doing. Okay, the stuff that they don't have to do. Like, now, granted, I'm not writing referrals like they are. Okay,
Absolutely.
because
Absolutely.
I've got the carrot and I've got a little bit. I've got some decent classroom management skills, and not to say that the teachers don't, but just there's a trade-off here. And forget your original question, but it is.
It's okay. I
It's
mean, lots of great stuff there, Bob. Lots of great stuff. Thinking about a lot of that stuff there, you talked about PD. A lot of the PD doesn't work for
Mm,
us.
yeah,
You know, I'm not taking notes, right? We're not taking notes in shop class.
yeah,
Um, you know, but what you kind of got at in there, and I want to pick at a little bit, engagement, right?
yeah,
Everybody in education right now is talking about engagement, engagement, engagement. And
yeah,
I'm telling them and I'm screaming,
yeah,
walk down the hall and visit your shop class. Go to your music class. Go to your art class. Heck, go to basketball or football practice, right?
yeah.
There's your engagement. There's your, what's the word I'm looking for? The differentiated instruction. That's the word.
Sure. Oh,
We do
yes.
differentiated instruction just
Yeah.
by the nature of our class, right?
Yep. Well, that's the true beauty with the QR codes because if you've missed a day, if you do learn a little slower or faster, you don't have to wait on me
Yeah.
to give the demonstration. A couple of years ago, I got an injury. I was playing football and separated my shoulder, and it was for a recreational church social event. And it was just a case where
Yep.
went too
Happens.
hard, and we took dead last, so at least it was worth it. But the
Absolutely.
next day, I'm in a sling, and a kid asked me, "How do you do rabbits and dados on a table saw?" Like, you need two hands for it, man. And I'm kind of clogged up. But come over here, walk with me, scan these three QR codes. They're 5 minutes apiece. They'll show you the machine setup, safe, proper use, and how to do it so it's going to fit perfectly in your drawer. Oh, okay, nice. And he even says, like, "Oh, so I don't even need you." I'm like, don't tell my boss that.
But you talked about cell phone usage too, right? I also advocated for that in my, I did some shop class. I did majority of my career in seventh grade STEM, where we did
Sure.
projects. I was in a regular classroom type
Yeah.
situation. And I'm
Yep.
like, bring the cell phone out, put it on the desk. Let's use it as a tool,
Yep.
right? Let's take pictures and document our work, right? If we're creating a portfolio for our kids, which is what we do in shop class,
Yep.
right? That really shows what a kid can learn. Let's use
Yeah.
it, right? And I'm sorry if
Or
you're not engaging
engagement.
as a teacher. I'm
Right.
sorry you're standing up in front of the classroom, which there's a time and a place, right? There's a time and
Yep.
a place to stand up in front of the classroom and lecture. There's a time and a place for a test. You do that, you give them,
Yeah.
but it
Yep.
doesn't mean anything at the end of the day, right? What does a grade mean at the end of the year?
Yeah. I really like that some schools and classrooms, it's got to be by class basis because the teachers and is in the driver's seat in the classroom. If that teacher says, put your phones away and take out your textbook, the answer is yes, sir, yes, ma'am. I'm learning this with my own children. We've got to have a little bit more discipline in the authority structures, and it all starts at home, right? It has to be where when you call a parent and tell me your kid is not listening in class and falling behind and making trouble for other students, there's got to be that support from the parent side and the administrator side, because that's where a lot of the heart of this cell phone ban comes, is the engagement piece. And one of our leaders said, when they're here, we're their parents. I strongly disagree with that. It's not the case. The parents are always the parents. I get them for a little bit over an hour, and I teach them something. Okay, and I use the tools at my disposal to do that. If a teacher in the same realm, is teaching history, okay, I student taught in social studies. I taught world history. I know what this looks like, and I taught under a really captivating speaker, and he could captivate the room and steal their attention from their phones. And that was his strategy: is I have got to be more entertaining than what they have sitting on their lap on the cell phone. And just going back to my own youth and remembering the cell phones that flipped is what I had. And I remember a teacher just slamming us a couple times because we'd be good at hiding it. Kids are good at hiding whatever. And I had the old school projectors where it would mirror the image, so you had to have half the lights off. And one of the teachers just slammed us and said, you're missing this. This is going to get erased in 10 minutes. If you miss it, you miss it. If you're looking down at your lap smiling, I don't want to know what's going on. I'm just going to tell you to knock it off. Pay attention up here. And we did. That's the way things were back then, and that's what I think has truly changed. And I feel for those 4 core teachers that have those circumstances, because if they have a phone ban, or if they have a little dish where your phones have got to go during the instruction time, they got to be able to have a consequence for that. Sad to say, consequence is a scary word, right? But detentions, suspensions, phone calls home, that's got to mean something again. So that's kind of where we're at. I had a student that has special circumstance to where they just could not have access to a phone, but the parents wanted the kid to have a phone, which is another mind-blowing thing. A lot of this stems from the parents. You got to take their phones away. It's why don't you start? And I get it. They want to have access to their kids, but my parents didn't to me. I'm sure yours didn't to yours. Maybe you didn't have access to your kids too while they were growing up directly at school, because I've had a lot of times a student will say, hey, my mom's calling. Could I answer it? I personally don't say no, but after the conversation, I say, they can call us here at the school too. All right. Give them the number. They'll get in touch with you if it's a urgent matter. It kind of goes better going through the school, because then we can get the passes started. You can meet right there. We've got this community that's willing to help, but it's just not being utilized. So there's certainly a lot to cover on the cell phone issue, but I talk a lot about it on my podcast. If you guys want to go back on it, and I believe you do what your boss says. And so right now my boss says no. And so he's the one that has expressly told me, ask for permission, not apology, or before forgiveness. And I'll do that. Okay, I'll submit to authority. I'm a biblically minded person, and so that's where my mindset comes onto this, because before this was all challenging and there was this big question some teachers are no cell phone and we're doing it big time here, and now we're getting some looks, and that's where it was with the case where my students who had me a couple years so are we really doing that? Are we really doing that in here? It's yes, that's school policy. We're not going to break the the tardy policy. We're not going to break that, are we? The dress code. You got to come here with a shirt and shoes on.
Another one.
There's lots of, I don't want to go into that one though.
Lots of rabbit holes to go down there.
That is one that, yes, I would prefer to stay off of that if that's okay.
No. I mean, because I think, and this is my opinion, because we see this every day in our classes. We see the accountability piece that's just built in there. Like you're not going to walk into your classroom and say, today we're going to teach accountability. Today we're going to teach collaboration. Today we're going to teach today we're going to teach grit, or we're going to learn how to fail. It's just there. And I
Right.
think that schools, and like you talked about the cell phone policy here, I think schools are missing a big opportunity to teach that accountability piece
Yeah.
and that critical thinking piece, right? Which is
Oh, yeah.
again built into what we do
Yeah.
just by the nature of it as teachers, as STEM teachers, as shop teachers, as
That's right.
hands-on teachers, right?
Yeah.
So what would you say? What would you say to a teacher? Let's say a core four. And I don't want to pick on them. I have some great friends that are phenomenal teachers, engaging, like your social studies teacher that we had this guy that could just spin stories, and he was amazing. Um,
Oh, yeah.
but what do you tell those teachers that, like, yeah, I can't get Johnny to work? Um, you know, I'm sure they come up in faculty meetings, or as the weekly, monthly complaint session.
Yeah, it's got to be introspective. What aren't you doing? What are you doing? What could you do better? Um, it's got to be with the whole class in mind, right? But you can kind of focus. Okay, does a student, perk up when there's video? Does this student perk up when there's discussion? You know, I like to make my students uncomfortable right out of the
Yes.
gate as I'm uh, giving whatever kind of reminder. So my structure in my classroom is we do daily vocab right out of the gate, and so logistically that gets them sitting, writing, quiet. I can take attendance and I give whatever announcements. And I got so frustrated to where I just said, the time saver's broken again. Please don't use it. Or we're cleaning out the dust collector. Why did you use the sander? Because now we've got this big mess. Oh, I didn't hear you say that. And that's what I'm missing. Okay, they're not engaged right there because they're writing the word. Maybe they're thinking about the conversation they had in the hallway. And so I would lead off with, a question or talk about whatever cultural event, if there's a sports,
Mhm.
if the Timberwolves have been pretty good the last couple of years. So I'd bring up, some with the Timberwolves or the Minnesota Vikings, whatever local teams are going on, or, whatever that was. And so I'd pick on some students. And so like they were ready, Michael, what'd you do over the weekend? Oh, well, after church, we went over to my grandma's house and we had pizza and whatever it was, and so students kind of caught on to that. I was like, oh my God, I better be paying attention here. Or I'll talk about, if you're at the point where we're making rabbits and dados, before we go to that final fitting of the drawer into your shelf, you need to have those European drawer size. Stanley, do you remember where we keep those in the shop? Oh yeah. And he points at it and he's like, we keep what? Like, the drawer size. Were you listening? And then, and I hate to be the mean
Yes.
teacher, right? But I never, like, if they don't know, I never slam them. I'll, like, Susie, can you help them out? Oh, they're over there, you know, underneath the drills. Like, all right. And
Right.
it's all with a smile. I think there's so much communicated with a smile. If you're a grump as a teacher, go do something else. This is the best job in the world. Let somebody else do it. There's
God,
so
it's
many
it's
people that are trying to get into teaching, and if you're grumpy doing this, like, you can make more money doing elsewhere. Like, I think I can make a
absolutely.
lot more money doing stuff like this,
Hmm.
just on my own. Have an open schedule. Like, if this is during the school day, like, I couldn't meet you between 10 and 11 a.m. Like, that would never work.
Right.
But
Right.
personal reasons I stay in teaching is that it's good for my family. I personally enjoy it. I feel like I'm decent at it, and it's what I feel like I'm called to do, and it all my other bases are covered, and so I get to do it. And I thank my wife that I get to do this too, because she stays home with my 4 young kids, and that is a godsend just to have her support. And my volunteer who comes in too ensures he's a retired guy, and he's actually about 10 years older than my parents, and so he's got a lot of fatherly wisdom too, and
Mhm.
and he tells me that he gets more out of it than what he puts in. So if you're listening to this wondering, gosh, should I
Mhm.
volunteer in some shop class? out of my district or in my community if I'm not in the teaching profession? Like the answer is yes. If you don't like it, it's easy to just let yourself go, fire yourself, and say, "Oh, I'll come in towards the end. Let me know when you're cleaning out the dust collector. I'll come help with that and never come back or something."
Right, right.
I don't know, but it's no, it's a really good gig, that's for sure.
Yeah, and especially in our areas too, because like you were talking about, you get to make those relationships with the kids. So you know that Susie learns this way, and you know that Johnny needs a little bit more help, and Steve can mentor. You get those because you have
Yeah.
that
Oh
conversation with
yeah.
them. Like, hey, how was your basketball
Yep.
game? Hey, how was your football game? Hey, how's your mom? Because as you'll learn as you go through the years, you're going to have students of students.
Yep.
And if you stay long enough, you're going to have students of students of
Uh,
students. And I started to do that, and I'm like, that's time to go. But
wow.
we get to make those connections that you don't get to make when you're standing in front of the classroom. You get
Right.
those learning styles, and then this is what I loved about and I'd love to hear your opinion on this. We got to teach, right? We didn't read a canned curriculum. We didn't read, we didn't buy this new science thing or this new math or this new writing curriculum. We
Yeah.
got to teach,
Yep.
and it was
Yeah.
different every day.
And honestly, that scares a lot of people.
It does.
I'm a part of the National Woods Board. They have a curriculum for woodshop teachers, and for the administrators that are worried about, okay, who am I going to hire? What are they coming with? Like if you've got the National Woods Board curriculum, you've got dozens of teachers and industry partners that are willing to come alongside you with this new hire and support them as best they can. So it is. I'm on the board because I write curriculum too,
Hmm.
and I've created quite a bit, and so that's my role. There's a bunch of presidents of companies and big time business people on there too, and they help on the industry side. But it is awesome. Yeah, we get to teach, and that connection after I bring a student through the table saw and their fear goes from here to the floor. I I've made
Yep,
a
you
bond
got
that no other teacher can make, outside of maybe science and some of the other like Phi-Ed courses where they're physically overcoming something.
them.
And after that, when I ask them to push a broom, yes, Mr. Miller,
Absolutely.
that kid
Yep.
would have laughed in the face of your math teacher if he was, hey, we sweep the room, and I don't blame him, right? Like I
Right.
said, I don't blame the core teachers, but it is a special thing that we get to do is bring their fear level down and that feeling of accomplishment. When
Hmm.
they build their intro project and I take this home. Yeah, it's yours. I don't want it in my house. You put it in your house. Okay. How much does it cost? $40. All right. Oh, I can't do that. All right, let's go meet with the social worker, the counselor. Okay,
Hmm.
bring them off to the side, not in front of everyone. Okay, let's think creatively. And if ultimately there's a case where there's no programs for them, then you make that executive decision as a teacher. All right, it's going to stay between us. All right,
Yeah.
next time you're paying for it, but this time take it home and thank me later. Thankfully, we've got some incredible industry support to where now that conversation goes a lot better. The first few years of me having those conversations and just thinking like, no, this shouldn't be pulled apart. This should go to this kid. Like I'm putting my job on the line, and that sucks because
Yeah.
it's what's right for kids. Now it is an easy phone call to make to a dozen industry partners, where I could say this: the student just needs $40. Take his end table home. All right. Is there anything you can do? And they give me
Yes.
$500 and say, or $400 and say, next 10 kids, don't make this call because I'm wasting their time. And they see the value in
Hmm.
it because we're Anoka Hennepin School District is the biggest district in the state. There's a contentious school board, and so at any point they're ready, willing, and able to make whatever decisions from the top, and that dominoes down and could spell ruin for our program or bump me into a different classroom or a different school. And so I try to keep all our ducks in a row and operate without breaking any rules and keeping our budget in black and just being accountable. So that's the right thing to do, I think.
And just like you said there too, calling that industry partner,
Yep.
calling that person, they want to be in the school, right? They have a
Yep.
vested interest because they're hiring our kids when they come out of school.
Yep.
So it's not a hard call. I mean, it might be a little scary at first to make, right? That first connection,
Yeah.
a little bit easier for us, maybe as
You think you're doing
shop
something
teachers.
wrong. You think you're doing
But
something wrong at first, and that's what people have got to hear. If you're a shop teacher doing this, you're not doing anything wrong. If the business says, "Don't ever call me again," go to their competitor and then tell them what they said. Because I've
yeah,
heard exactly that. And you know where our kids work now? Vision Woodworking, Fleetwoods, Lakeside
yes,
Cabinets. Like, do you know the companies going under right now in my area are the ones that didn't have good business practices, number one, but
yeah.
also weren't willing to invest in the future.
But
You know,
but I mean,
that's
like how hard is it? And this is kind of another argument I have. How hard is it to go to the coffee shop in the morning, get some coffee and some donuts, and bring in those industry partners
right.
on a Friday morning for an hour to talk to your kids? Whether it's a
Yep,
math kid, whether it's a science kid, whether it's a shop kid, whether it's an art kid, right?
yep,
Those people, the mayor wants to come in and talk. The
yep,
councilman, right? Your school board. How hard is it to spend $50 out of your pocket, right?
yeah,
Once a month or to get the PTA to sponsor it or your PTO, right? It's not a hard lift to do that. It's just the
right.
hard part is asking the question. But if you have that relationship that we have with kids and with industry, with people
Yep.
outside, then you get it. Um, Running short on time here, Bobby. I got one more question, right? Because I'm huge on my common sense piece that I grew up with doing, and I'm sure you did too, right?
Mm,
A lot of this stuff is great that we talk about, but I developed this thing I call the Tuesday test. Can I use this Tuesday morning in class? Right? So what are one or two things that a teacher, whether they're a shop teacher or a core teacher or whatever, could use, could learn from a shop class that they could put into work into implement Tuesday morning without a
sure.
heavy.
I'm sure you've gotten the same question over and over for weeks, years, and that shows a gap in your teaching, in my opinion. And so I've identified thousands of gaps for these in my own teaching, and that's where those videos become so wonderful.
Mhm.
Okay, because if big one is wobbly end table. Student built their project. They did exactly what I said. Okay, but maybe something was off. Maybe it wasn't even their fault. Maybe the wood was just a little bit bowed, and so now their end table wobbles and they're crushed. Okay, Mr. Miller, how do you level off an end table? How do you make it not wobble? Okay, it's real simple on the sander. Okay, walk over. And I gotta like pick this thing up, and I'm not getting any younger. And then put it on a flat surface. Okay, there's this leg and this leg are too long. All right, take it back to the sander, sand it. And hey, voila, there we go. Because this is the flattest surface in Coon Rapids is the top of the saw stop table saw.
Mhm.
And so this end table is perfect. If you go down to your floor and it wobbles, it's the floor's fault, it's not yours. That's a very exciting thing, right? But that is a conversation and a demonstration I had to give probably 100 times before I thought, I'm going to put this to video. And so as soon as a student asks, I've got, honestly, as long as it took for you to listen to that, that's how long it takes for a student to watch that because it just clicks. Oh, you just sand off the end of it. Perfect. Okay, I know how to do that. And they see me do it within the video and the words explaining it, even if they don't have audio, because part of the no phones is that no headsets either now. So
Mhm.
having to be able to read my annotations while I'm talking is important. So you've got something in your practice where you're just either it takes away your time or you're frustrated about it, where put it to video. Okay, it doesn't have to be perfect. None of my videos are perfect. There's only been two projects that have actually had a video company take video of me, and that was when I worked for Safety Speed. I built some curriculum for them, and those are way better. All right, I thought that I, as much as I love this guy that came in and did the video production, I wanted to hate him so bad because like I've been doing this for like 10 years and now you're going to come in and do the videos different. Like, no, they're going to be mine are going to be just as good. And so leading up to that, I really poured into the editing and the lighting and getting everything just right and fast forward and whatnot. And he comes in and just dominates and is a wonderful guy. And the video turns out really, really good. But honestly, the videos that I just have, a student hold my phone. All right, I'm going to show you how to put the rockers on the rocking chair. And yep, follow me up here. Yep, I'm standing on the table. It's okay. We're going to drill a pilot hole. We're going to put some soap in there. We're going to put the screw on. Yeah, the soap is for this. And it's unrehearsed. Someone will hand me a pass during it, and you just see just a quick like cut out. Even if you don't edit them, for probably 5 years, I didn't edit any video, and that was the charm. It's like when the student comes in, for the pass for Mikey. All right, here you go, Mikey. All right, it took 20 seconds away, but still, if I was injured or sick, or if a student was missed a day, they still had that resource. Or if it was the case where, yeah, I know you saw this, you forgot it. Okay, here it is again. So that'd be my recommendation, and it will make your life a lot easier. And I talk a lot about this because I've also lost hundreds of videos by not managing a YouTube channel well with permissions and whatnot. Very very devastating when you discover that. And so don't use your school email for the YouTube channel. Set up a personal channel. That's why I'm Mr. Miller's Woodshop everywhere, is because when you want to find me, I might not even be with the Okanagan schools, if I take a job elsewhere. But I love my job right now. But I've changed districts because their start time, end time is better, or there's better pay, or the class structures are better, or your admin support's better. Like it's a case too where I said when I took my first teaching job, like, I'm going to teach here till I got a long gray beard. And then my wife gets pregnant and says, I want to stay home. It's like, that ain't going to happen if I stay here. So I either go back into industry or find teaching elsewhere. And so I've done the latter, and I'm very happy that I've stayed here because I've just been able to develop and hang out with guys like you in the summer too. So there we go.
And you mentioned you're Mr. Miller's Woodshop everywhere, as we wrap up here. Somebody wants to get into contact with you, find out more about you, where can we find you? I'll put the links in the show notes.
Sure. I've got a link tree, just Mr. Miller's Woodshop, that you can see in the TechEd Clubhouse description. I'm most active on Instagram and LinkedIn because that's where I've gained most of my industry support and grown my network. But I'm on Twitter, Facebook. Email is fine, mrmillerswoodshop@gmail.com. No punctuation, like any good shop teacher should have. I'm available. I'm teaching. I got 4 little kids at home, so it might not. Yeah. Well, setting it up too, I'm thinking like, boy, this isn't gonna work if I try this in email. I'm like, I usually don't do. But one of my client here thought it was really funny because I'm saving receipts for her, and I just wrote it RESEATS receipts. And it's like, don't you have a master's degree or something? I'm like, yes, I do, but this is more fun. And I couldn't remember I before E because it's after C. So like, whatever. I'm gonna write it so I know what it says because like
I love it.
I'm the boss here, so
I want 4 coffees for the shop department, please.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, Mr. Miller's Woodshop, anywhere where you're online, I'm probably there too.
All right. I appreciate it. I had a good time today. I mean, we could have talked for another hour about shop. Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for coming in, and I look forward to talking to you again and following your career.
Thanks for having me, Dan.
Oh, my pleasure. We'll see you later.
Yep.